And welcome to week 4 of Upon Further Review. This is our Butler County Area Football weekly review and preview show. My name is John Enrietto. I'm the sports editor of the Butler Eagle, flanked by Eagle sports writers Derek Pida and Brendan Howe. And gentlemen, jumping right into last week's action. Always have some intriguing scores, always have some surprises. Derek, looking back on week 3, what comes to mind for you?
Well, 2 upsets stick out for me. One, not good for our team, our local teams, and one was good for us. I'll start with Mars. There was no reason for anybody to think, at least from what we saw, that Blackhawk was going to make that a game, number one, and actually end up winning the game, number 2. Mars looked really impressive on offense the first 2 weeks. Blackhawk struggled on both sides of the ball in their first 2 games. Now, Evan Wright did have a good game rushing the ball from what I hear. He had well over 100 yards, but obviously the points is what matters, and Mars to be held at 14 points. Blackhawk won the game, from what I hear, on a last-second field goal. I'm sure the Cougars took a little bit of an edge from playing at home, but that result surprised me. I thought Mars would win that game handily, and not only did they not win going away, they lost the game, their first loss of the season, 15-14. The other one, good for our area team, was Summit Academy. How about Summit?
How about them? Huh?
Coming, I guess Springdale is down, but I know Springdale had players returning this year.
Of course.
You know, they had players who they knew, okay, this kid's good running the ball, this guy's good on the line. You know, here's 2 or 3 of our guys that are going to be stars or starting on defense. Summit basically starts from scratch every single year.
They do.
So even teams that can say, well, we're going to struggle, those teams have guys coming back. They have known commodities. Summit doesn't have that. And for them to go down there and pull out we have it down as an 18-14 win. I believe that's what it was.
Yep. Yeah.
Kudos to the Knights. Great win for the Knights.
Absolutely. And kudos to the coaching staff, because to get a victory with an entirely new team only 3 weeks into the season, it's pretty impressive. I mean, I don't care about the quality of an opponent that you played. That's an impressive win. Brendan, what is your take looking back at week 3?
So we knew that LiQWYD is a pretty powerful team. I figured North Catholic would have a little bit better of a time on offense. I don't think they picked up a first down until the 4th quarter, right? And
minus 20 in yardage.
Yep, negative yardage in the game, which you don't see very often. So that kind of stood out to me there. They'll kind of have to get back on track in section play. And also Central Clare and Union AC Valley. Union AC Valley came into the season with pretty high hopes, and it just seems like they haven't gotten it together yet. They won in their first week and they've lost 2 pretty
lopsided.
Yeah, pretty lopsided. That's the word. There we go. Games in a row now, and they are another team that's gonna have to figure it out going forward.
Those lopsided losses come out of nowhere too, because they have been rolling based from last year, and a lot of those kids are back this year. They got off to a good start in week 1. And as you said, the last 2 weeks that they really struggled. My look back on last week is on the defensive side of the ball. One on a positive note for a local team, one on a negative note for a local team. I look at Butler's starting defense between the second half of the Meadville game and the first 3 quarters of Brashear last week. Butler's defense pitched 5 consecutive shutout quarters, which is pretty solid for any team, especially for them. Their defense is really coming on. They're getting great linebacker play right now. The defensive line is holding up blocks. Brashear's winless, but they have an explosive offense, a lot of speed, and Butler did a great job of containing them. All 3 Brashear scores last week came on Butler subs in the 4th quarter after the mercy rule kicked in. Then on a not so positive note, the defense for Seneca Valley, 33-21 loss to Canamac. They're giving up points, and Derek, I know you're close to the Seneca Valley program. They don't usually give up the amount of points that they've given up so far this year.
No, the week before they lost to Peters Township, but Peters Township was almost strictly a passing team. I think they ended up the game with 40 yards rushing, but at halftime, I think Peters only had like 15 yards rushing. I mean, they focused on the pass and were able to throw it through Seneca Valley's defense. This past game against Cannon McMillan, the quarterback played well. Mike Evans, he's the coach's son. He played well, but they also ran the ball for well over 100, and I think they had 170, 180 yards rushing. So now you're worried about Seneca Valley's pass defense after the loss to Peters Township. Now it's like, where do you start trying to plug the holes? They're running the ball against Seneca Valley, and they're also passing the ball. So they've got some holes to fix on that defense. Playing Pine Richland at Pine Richland this week.
Let's get into a couple topics here. First one being the Freeport Yellow Jackets. None of us brought them up in looking back at last week, but impressive 61-7 destruction of Quaker Valley. And Brendan, you've covered Freeport. You've seen them play. I believe you also did their preview story this year. Just how good, in your view, how good is Freeport, and what's making them tick so far this year?
I think that they're the best team in their section, at least to this point. But like you said, the 3 impressive wins. They haven't only done it on offense, they've done it on defense and special teams as well. Special teams touchdown in 3 straight games. So when I covered the first week, they had a pump block, and then they got one the last 2 weeks as well. And Coach Gaylott buys them pizza and ice cream whenever they get the special teams touchdown. So they're eating a lot of pizza and ice cream up there.
Yeah, they did.
And so
It's going to get a little bit fat if they don't watch out.
that, along with I think what makes them tick, as you asked there, they lost their defensive leader in the scrimmage in Jackson Reiser, and Zach Clark has really stepped up. And to see that defense only give Quaker Valley 7 points and do what it's done, he's stepped in that linebacker role, and he's helped them kind of stay up to speed. That, along with the running game, and they're breaking in a new quarterback this year, is pretty impressive what they've done.
Yeah, pretty. Of course, we're going to get into the pick segment later on in this podcast. But when they have Freeport with a big game down at Armstrong this week, Derek, your thoughts on the Yellow Jackets? I mean, normally, at least from my take on them through the years, when they do win, they're known for winning lower scoring games. They're known for the defense down there. They're aggressive play on that side of the football. But this year, 37 points against South Isle, 61 points last week. They opened up with 28 against Indiana, which has a decent team. What's your take on the Yellow Jackets?
Well, obviously losing Jackson Reiser is a big hit, but they have other guys able to step up on the defensive side of the ball. I figured their defense was going to be good this year. They were good last year, but now
they're known for defense, really.
They are. They're known for defense, but you throw in, I think Ben Lane is being put in a better position now to make plays, not just on special teams. I don't know. I haven't actually covered any of their games, but I think offensively it looks like he's being put in a better position to not just contribute, but get those big gains and obviously touchdowns. He had 4 touchdowns last week, 3 on offense. I will say this though, Freeport, I like where they're at, but I think from the standings, as you know, I'm the standings guy here.
I know.
The 3 best teams in that conference, I'm confident in saying this, is going to end up being in any particular order: Freeport, East Allegheny, Shadyside Academy. Freeport has not played a conference game yet, and we'll see what happens when they go up against East Al and Shadyside, because I do think those are going to be the top 3 teams in that conference. But right now, I mean, you play who's on your schedule, and right now they've been dominant.
What I like about Freeport is that they've still got the defense. That's obvious. They've given up very few points so far. Gavin Coney, the quarterback's been solid. They've got a go-to receiver, Brady Starvinson. Ben Lane, we talked about him, an explosive type player, both on offense as well as on special teams. So, to me, they've got the total package, and you guys make a great point. They really haven't got delved into section play yet. We'll see how that goes. But to me, this could be one of the better Freeport teams since you remember this team, Derek. Maybe about I want to say 6-7 years ago. Austin Romanchak at quarterback, and they had Ricky Hunter was like an all-purpose guy. They had Corey Selinger, I think his name was.
One of their quarterbacks was on the cover of our tab one year.
Yeah.
We had 4 quarterbacks on the cover of the tab. And
he was one of them. Yep, you're right. Yeah. To me, this is the best Freeport offense since that time. Like I said, probably going back 6 or 7 years.
This could be the team Freeport has been waiting for. We'll see.
Could be. Okay, our next segment is something a little bit different here, kind of off the wall. Everyone knows in football, and I guess it's pretty safe to say at all levels of football these days, pro, colleges, small college, high school, all the way down. Quarterback's probably the most critical position in football in general. High school probably no exception there. But Brendan, start with you on this one. In your view, other than the quarterback position, what is the most critical position on the high school field, and why?
Well, you kind of have to go with the quarterback of the defense, which I feel is a linebacker that they kind of get everybody set up. Running is still very prominent in Western Pennsylvania football. It's not always passing, like Derek mentioned with Peters Township last week in Seneca Valley. You need someone in the middle there that can kind of anchor defense and keep it up to speed.
Derek, what are your thoughts? Besides quarterback, most critical role in high
You
school.
kind of stole my thunder there. I was going to say the other quarterback of the team, which, it's very, very seldom a defensive lineman. It's normally either a linebacker or a defensive back. I was talking with a coach in the preseason here, and I can't remember if it was Seneca Valley, Mars. One of those teams actually has their quarterback of the defense, so to speak, in the secondary. I think he's a safety. So I think it differs from team to team, depending on who's calling the signals on defense. Sometimes it's a linebacker, sometimes it's a cornerback, sometimes it's a safety. But you hear the saying all the time by coaches, well, he's the quarterback of our defense.
Right.
He's basically the guy who runs the defense like the quarterback on offense runs that side.
And that's usually a linebacker.
Usually, but there are cases where a defensive back does it. So I think it varies, but obviously a very important position. Football's 3 phases. Now, is the punter the guy you're going to say? The punter?
No, actually, no, I'm not. Although I'm partial punter, because I used to be a punter, but I'm going to take a kind of a different tactic. I'm going to stay with offense. I'm not just going to say running back. I'm going to say versatile running back. By that I mean a runner who can not only run with the football but can catch football as well. And the reason I say this is in the era of spread offenses, which high school football is so prevalent of today. I mean, everyone's throwing the ball, it seems. If you've got a running back who can also catch it, you see it so often. And Butler's got a kid like that right now in Deshaun Cox, where you can play fake to him if he's a big enough running threat that the defense will suck in. They suck in. They see the quarterback keeps the ball. They leave the running back go. The running back just goes out by himself, catches the football. To me, it's become a very effective tool in a lot of high school offenses. So my answer to my own question here is not just a running back, but a versatile running back, kind of a wing back type position.
So where would the defense play in your question? Where is he at? 4th, 5th down the list?
No, actually, linebacker would be next in line for me.
Okay.
Linebacker would be next in line for me for sure. Yeah. It's my favorite segment, the over-under segment of our podcast, and I've got a couple of might be interesting. We'll see if we can get some different opinions here, but always a goal of the over-under. Our record so far in over-under for the season, Brendan still leads with a pedestrian 3-3 record, but pedestrian good enough to lead this group. I am second at the 2-4. Derek got off the schneid last week, but he's still 1-5, sitting in 3rd place right now. So we'll see how it goes this week. My first over/under, and Derek, will start with you on this one.
Start off with the best.
That's right. Max Schnurr, a Butler's quarterback, passing yardage at Hollingsburg, over/under 190.5. Pretty high number. Does Mac exceed it, or does it stay under it?
I like what Butler's offense has been doing. They're going out to a Hollidaysburg team that has been struggling, and I like their offense to be pretty balanced. But in terms of the passing game, I think he's going to go over 200 actually.
Okay. Brendan, Max Schnurr, 190.
Means he'll probably pass for like 80 yards.
Over/under 190.5. What do you think?
I agree. It's gonna be a long bus ride, but it'll give them time to kind of focus, key in, and get ready.
All right, so you're going over. Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I was going to go over, but actually you guys talked me out of the sweep here. So the reason I think it's going to be under is Hollidaysburg, and again, we're going to do the picks next segment, but Hollidaysburg has given up over 1,000 yards on the ground in 3 games. That's an awful lot. And a long bus ride, as Brendan, you alluded to, I think they're going to get Deshaun Cox rolling, David Graff rolling, even Schnurr will probably get some runs in there. I think they're going to run the ball for over 190. I don't know if they're going to throw the ball for that much. So I'm going to go under for Max Schnurr 190. He's going to go over 100, but I don't think he's going to hit 190. Other over-under, we're looking at the Planets. As you mentioned, Derek, coming off a ditch point loss at Blackhawk. Now they're home to Indiana. It's their Hall of Fame night, I do believe. Over-under points for the Planets, 28.5. Brendan, we'll start with you. What say you on that over-under?
We've seen Indiana a few times this year against Freeport, against Knock. Against Freeport, the game looked a little closer than it was. They allowed Freeport 28 points. One of those came on the special teams touchdown, like I mentioned earlier. And then they allowed Knock to keep up with them in double overtime, and that was a pretty high-scoring game. And I'm willing to bet that, or I'm willing to say that Mars' offense is more effective than Knox. So, by that reasoning, I think that Mars will go over in this game.
You're saying over. Okay. Derek, over under 28.5. Planets
Good.
versus Indiana.
Frustrating week last week for Mars. They had a decent offensive performance, as I said before. Evan Wright ran for 138 yards, but you only score 14 points. You suffer your first loss of the season. I'd like the Planets to come home this week and not only put up good stats, but put up impressive numbers on the scoreboard, over 28.4.
Okay. Once again, I have to disagree based on my prediction, which will be coming up in the next segment. I'm going to go under, but very slightly under. So I'm going to go under 28.5. So we will see how those pan out. I have a chance to drop into last place if this doesn't go my way. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh, you're already in last place in the picks. So.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to be last place in both. Let's put it that way. And it's prediction time, one of our favorite parts of the show. Not for me so far this year, because I know I'm in dead last in the picks through 3 weeks. Derek, let's start out. Give us the one-loss record rundown here.
Okay.
What do we got going on here?
Me and Scoop are leading the way at 25-8.
You're trying to beat the bird. You're trying to beat the bird.
Yeah, I don't like the bird.
Uh-oh.
Brendan is in third place at 24-9.
Okay.
And you are fearless leader, 22-11. Wow, that's not good.
Three games down after plenty of season left though. Plenty of season left. Okay, let's dive in then. We got the Butler Golden Tornado 2-1 on the year, coming off that nice win over Brashear. Heading to Hollidaysburg, which is 0-3. Very similar teams in that they both have left the WPIL and are playing independent schedules basically. Derek, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Hollidaysburg's down a few players, right? Are they not
Possibly.
down a quarterback?
Possibly. That's what's the unknown. Their quarterback and their starting running back and middle linebacker both got banged up last week.
Yeah.
In their loss to State College or blowout loss to State College, but State College is very, very good, by the way.
Very good. Yeah.
So their status is unknown. So this kind of makes this kind of a wild card type of thing.
With I just like the way Butler's been playing, especially on offense. I like them to go out there. It's a long road trip, but it's much more enjoyable if you win on the way home. I like Butler to win this game. Actually, going away 38-7, Golden Tornado.
Wow. Okay. Brandon, what say you about your alma mater going out to Hollidaysburg? First time these teams have ever played football, by the way.
I picked against Butler a few times earlier this season because of the worries. Yep, because of the worries of the injuries going into the season. Braylon Littlejohn is back, right? If I remember correctly.
He's back.
Pick 6 last week.
Butler's getting healthy.
So yeah, he's making impact. And
2 key linemen are out though. They still have 2 key linemen out.
Yeah, well, I still don't think that's enough for Hollidaysburg to kind of climb ahead in this one. I'm going to go with Butler 31-12.
I'm picking the Golden Tornado also. Make it a clean sweeper. I'm going Butler 31-20. I think I'll be a little closer game than you guys think. But Hollidaysburg, they're 0-3, but the 3 teams that they played haven't lost a game yet. They're combined 8 wins and no losses. So like I said, they're kind of a wild card now. Yeah, but between the caliber teams they played and their injury situation, I don't really know what we're going to get with them. So we will find out Friday night.
This game, by the way, is the Golden Tornado against the Golden Tigers.
Yes, it is. Everybody's golden these days.
Golden all over the place.
It's golden everywhere. I don't know. It's just a golden time for us all. Seneca Valley 1-2 at Pine Richland 1-2. To me, Derek, we'll start with you on this game. To me, a couple of surprising 1-2 records here out of the gate for both these teams.
Yeah, Seneca Valley has had some, and I kind of alluded to this in my story last week. They have splash plays. They have plays where they're like, okay, 87-yard touchdown pass last week in the game against Cannon McMillan. This is what's going to get them going. This is, they're going to ride this wave of momentum. Defense is going to make a big play. They're going to win. Didn't happen. Last 2 weeks, they lost. But you look at Pine Richland, their only win this year is against a struggling Kiski area team.
Yep.
And I just like, I know
They blew them out, though. They did blow them out.
They did blow them out.
Yeah.
I like Seneca Valley skill players. I know it didn't lead to a win the last few weeks, but Graham Hancock's, Wyatt Craver, really good running back for Seneca Valley, Luke Lawson, and Jackson Wetzel, the 87-yard touchdown pass last week went to him. I just like them to finally make enough plays on offense, but at least as importantly, make the plays on defense to kind of close down the other team. And I like Seneca Valley to win this game 27-13. I think they're going to play well on both sides of the ball throughout.
Brendan, Raiders versus Rams. What do you think?
Whichever team loses this kind of goes into panic mode with the one team missing out in the classification playoffs. I am also going to go with Seneca Valley here. I think their defense gets back in order and they pull out a 28-15 win.
I'll say this: whoever loses this is not going to be used to being 1-3. I'll tell you that.
Well, they're in separate conferences.
Yeah, they are still.
My bad.
Hey, I'm going to make it a sweep. I'm picking the Raiders as well. I think they get off the schneid a little bit. I don't see them dropping a third straight game. I like Seneca Valley 21-17.
Raiders sweep, but sometimes that's not good.
And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not. We got Knock. The Knights trying to get off the schneid. 0-3. They're heading to Southmoreland. Well, Knock head somewhere every week with their stadium getting a turf this year. But Southmoreland 1-2. Brendan will start with you in this one. What say you between the Knights and is Southmoreland the Scotties? Are they Scotties?
Yeah,
There you go. Right there.
Well,
What do you think?
We thought Knock was making their strides before last week, and they kind of got blown out. I'm going to go with Southmoreland to win here, even though they've been struggling as well. It's going to be a close game, 22-20.
Okay, I'm going to jump in with my pick here. I've picked Knock the last couple of weeks. I've lost on both occasions. I was really tempted to give them a third shot, but I think Southmoreland, they beat Derry last week, I believe, for their first win, 28-14. I think playing at home will be the difference. I think Knock will give them a game though, but I'm picking Southmoreland 21-13. Derek, what do you think?
Looks like I'm on an island.
Uh-oh.
Southmoreland has struggled in football since the school came together with consolidations back in the 60s, I think it was. They made the playoffs like one time their entire history, one time. Remember how well Knock played in that game against Indiana a few weeks ago?
Absolutely, lost in double OT. Yeah.
I think they played that well this week. The only difference is Southmoreland isn't as good as Indiana, so I got Knock winning this game 25-14. Knock, I got your back.
There you
these
go.
guys, hey, just don't pay attention to these guys. Knock's gonna win this week.
All
They're
right.
gonna get off the schneid.
You're going a good night for the Knights, you say. Okay, we got the Mars Planets. They're trying to overcome it. As you mentioned earlier, Derek, at this point lost at Blackhawk. The 2-1 Planets head to Indiana, which is also 2-1. We've already seen Indiana twice play a couple of our teams. Freeport beat them by 20. Of course, Derek just mentioned that overtime win that they had over Knock. Derek, what are your thoughts on the Planets and the Little Indians?
This game is at Mars, by the way. So
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Indiana's at Mars, correct.
Mars celebrating their 2022 Hall of Fame class
Yes.
this week, and you look at it, Evan Wright, and I'm not saying he's going to have a great game every week, but this year so far, 3 weeks, his lowest rushing total in any game is 138 yards.
And that was last week.
That was last week, and they lost to Blackhawk.
Yep.
Planet's coming home. I like their chances in this game. I think they're going to be a little bit more balanced. Indiana's got Trevor Smith. He's a quarterback. He can throw the ball. He's also the team's leading rusher, though. Besides him, I'm not sure if they're going to have a running back step up with a big game. We know Mars has a running back that can do that, and I think that's going to be the difference. I got the Planets winning this one 32-17.
Brendan, what do you think?
I agree with Derek. I don't think Eric Kasprowicz is going to let his team only score 14 points 2 weeks in a row. So I'm going to go with Mars. It's going over the 30-point threshold, winning 32-14.
Both of Indiana's wins are only by 1 point. We mentioned a double overtime win over Knock. They also beat Shady Side Academy 23-22 to start the season. They're not going to get a 1 point win over Mars. What I do like about Mars, even last week in their loss, they don't give up many points, and that's going to be the difference this week. I'm picking the Planets 28-14. Then a big game over at Armstrong. As we talked about them earlier, the undefeated Freeport Yellow Jackets 3-0. They go to Armstrong, and passing antics of Caden Olson, who seems like he's been there forever, but he's still there. Armstrong 2-1. Brendan, we'll start with you. A bit of a showdown here. What are your thoughts on this game?
So, an interesting stat here. Freeport has given up 15 points or less in 10 of their last 11 games.
Mm-hmm.
I covered their opener last year. That wasn't the case in their opener when they played Armstrong. It was a lot hotter outside, and it's a game that John Gaylord talked to me in the preseason that he said he was focusing on, even though it was in week 4. He didn't want his team to kind of falter after halftime like they did the last time around. Still, I think Armstrong's offense is very powerful. They're going to get over that 15-point threshold just by a little bit, and Armstrong will pull out a 21-16 victory.
Derek, what do you think? Armstrong, they're in a higher class than Freeport, are they not?
They're
So,
4A. Yeah, Armstrong's in the same class as Mars. Yes.
So does Armstrong hand the Jackets their first defeat?
Well, it's, Freeport has a good defense. That's not going to change just by one game here, but they're going up against the quarterback, Caden Olson, that just became Armstrong County's all-time leader in passing yards. This kid's he's a stud at the high school level. 11 touchdowns in 3 games he has.
633 yards passing too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Armstrong's one loss this year is by 14 points to LiQWYD, and you stay within 2 scores of LiQWYD. That's saying something because we saw what they did last week to North Catholic. I like Armstrong to win this game. I think it's going to be close, but Armstrong just a little too much on offense for Freeport, even though they have a very good defense. 27-20 Riverhawks.
Yeah, you see, to me, Armstrong's most impressive game this year is that loss, that 28-14 loss to LiQWYD. You saw what LiQWYD just did to a good North Catholic team, holding into negative yards offensively. So I like Armstrong again. I like Armstrong also. Caden Olson against that Freeport defense, though, that's a match worth seeing. But I'm picking the Riverhawks as well, 21-14. Moving on here, we have North Catholic. Got a bit of their pride beaten chewed out of them last week in that loss to LiQWYD. They couldn't move the ball. I think they had 1 first down. They're 2-1. They're going to a Highlands team that is 3-0 on the year. Derek, we'll start with you on this one. This looks like an intriguing matchup also.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting to see exactly what North Catholic has with their passing game this year. They started Jason Saquette. He's a junior. As Brendan will remember, he had a great game last year against Valley when he played for the injured Joey Prentice, but this year he has under 200 yards passing in 3 games. Even before last week's game against LiQWYD, I think he had 165 yards. So I'm still waiting to see exactly what he can offer that team. He is mobile. He has some rushing yards this year. But Highlands, I'm kind of impressed with them. They're 3-0, and it looks like they're pretty balanced. And this game is obviously a road game for the Trojans. I like Highlands to win this one, 21-16. And this is the first conference game of the season for the Trojans.
Brendan, what do you think on the North Catholic Highlands match?
Yeah, North Catholic isn't used to being beaten up, especially that bad by LiQWYD. I covered the Whoopfield Championship game last year where they played Central Valley, and that was another blowout. I think they'll be focused, and I think they'll get back on track here. Win on the road, 28-12.
I picked this game to be the game of the week in terms of competitive score. I think this could be a dynamite game. Highlands has won 2 of their 3 wins are by single scores, so they can win the close games. Playing at home, I think they win another close game. I'm picking Highlands 17-14 in what should be a great game with a lot of defense.
So Brendan's on the island there. I want to make sure we're
Brendan's on the island. Yeah,
all right.
Brendan's on the island. Let's move into some District 9 action. I know some of Derek's favorite territory. St. Mary's, 3-0.
Call me home, John. Send me home.
I know. St. Mary's 3-0 and piling up points as they usually do. They're coming down to Corn City. The Gremlins got off the schneid last week by shutting out Ridgeway. Brendan, you covered that Corn City game last week. We'll start with you. What are your thoughts on St. Mary's and KC?
Well, the biggest thing here is Eric Brewer is playing with fractured wrist. Mm-hmm. He's playing with a cast on his throwing hand. So
that can affect your passing game.
Yeah, they only threw it once last week, and it wasn't Brewer that threw it. It was their backup, and he threw an interception right before halftime. It didn't end up. It wasn't a meaningful turnover, but St. Mary's only allowed 20 points in 3 games. Yep. And Corn City, we know they can run the ball. Last week they had 13 different guys run the ball, and they ran for over 330 yards, which was impressive. St. Mary's has a little bit more of a vaunted defense so far. I'm going to go with them to win, knowing that Corn City is basically going to have to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, 28-21.
I'm wondering what Corn City's coaching staff has in store this week. I don't really think they believe that they can beat the St. Mary's team without being able to have at least a threat of throwing a football. I mean, I just kind of wonder what they might have concocted this week. But I think it's not going to be enough. I do think Corn City is going to be a bit creative with their offense this week. They're going to give them a fight, but I'm picking St. Mary's 27-20. Derek, what say you on this matchup?
As you alluded to, I do think they have something cooked up. Now I don't call Joe Sherwin every night, contrary to popular belief, but they've got to have something cooked up. Last year, this St. Mary's team came down to Corn City, Christian Kudret, the quarterback for St. Mary's, threw for over 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. He graduated.
I covered that game.
I covered that game.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Well, I must have seen him before then. Okay, my mistake. All right.
He
We both
was-
went there, so I'll take your word for it.
Christian Kudret graduated. It's his younger brother, Charlie, now
Okay.
quarterbacking the Dutch.
Right.
It looks like he's a decent quarterback himself, but he's also the team's leading rusher. Other than him, the rest of St. Mary's team has 114 rushing yards in 3 games. So they're going to key on Charlie Kudret.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to stop him. They're going to have something cooked up on offense. I don't know what. They're playing at home. I'm picking the Gremlins to
On an island with the Gremlins.
on an island. And
with
this
the
might
Gremlins.
be considered an upset considering
Yeah.
their quarterback has a cast on his ring. But 24-17 Gremlins. You're covering a game. Enjoy.
I will. Looking forward to that one for sure. Montauk, 1-2 on the season. They got their first win at Cameron County last week. They're on the road again. They're heading to Brookville. The Brookville team, unaccustomed for them to be 0-3, but that's what they are. Derek, what are your thoughts on Montauk Brookville?
Brookville got off to a really bad start this year. 2 losses,
They
2
did.
games that I didn't think they would lose. Then
Blown out of
again,
both games.
yeah, I didn't know. I mean, they had that string of great receivers and quarterbacks come
Yes.
through there.
Yep.
Maybe the well's kind of running dry for them there. But last week against a really good Keystone team, they only lost by 1 point,
Yes, they did.
20-19.
Yep.
It's obviously not the Brookville team of the recent past, but I think they played better last week. They were able to gain some momentum, even though they lost to Keystone. I like the Raiders to carry that momentum to a 20-17 win over Montauk.
What are your thoughts? Do the Warriors get the 500 or does Brookville get the first win?
I think it'll be a close game, but like you said, I think Montauk gets their second one in a row in a very close game, 16-14.
You pick the Warriors. All right. I got to go Brookville for this. For not the same reason that Derek did. It's a major difference. Central Clarion blows them out 42-7. Tyrone shuts them out 30-0. And all of a sudden they play a Keystone team that only the week before blew away Union AC Valley, only to lose them by 1 point in a game that Brookville easily could have won. That's a major turnaround. Something happened there. Maybe they had some kids injured early. I don't know what Brookville's deal was that way, but it's enough for me to go with them. I'm picking Brookville over the Warriors, 23-14. Union AC Valley, 1-2. To me, I'm not totally shocking to 1-2, but the way they 1-2, Derek, getting blown out the back-to-back weeks. They're heading to play a Brockway team that's 2-1 and just laid a 70 burger on College Sport last week. So your thoughts on Union AC at Brockway?
Union AC Valley team lost to Central Clarion and Keystone the last 2 weeks by a combined score of 86-13.
Which is hard to believe. It really is.
And, from what I hear, I hear that they're having some trouble on the line, and that's hard to believe for me because I mean they got Landon Chalmers, they got a lot of big kids, a lot of good kids back on that line from last year when they were so good. I think they find a way to right the ship this week. I can't see this team losing 3 in a row. I think it's going to be tough. Brockway coming off a big win, as you said, they 70 points against Caldersport. But I like Union AC to go up there and finally get back on the winning track. Close game, really good game though. 24-22 Falcon Knights.
I don't know, it's hard for me to go against Brockway in this game. That they beat the Cane by a field goal to start the year. Their one loss is a 1 point loss to Du Bois, which handled Coin City in a game you covered in the season opener. And then, as mentioned, I know College Sports not much in football, but they just destroyed them on 70-16 last week. Each Valley's got some problems. They got to figure them out. It's a tough place to do it on the road. I think the Falcon Knights do come back and play a strong competitive game, but I'm picking Brockway 28-21. Brendan, what do you think?
I spent my weekend in Brockway, visited a friend, watched some football. It's a quaint little place.
It is. I've been through there before.
I covered a game at Verichetti Field last year, the District 9 championship game. Seeing that the Rovers' offense is rolling 70 points over Calder Sport, as you alluded to, I just don't think Union AC Valley can pull this one out. I think it'll be another high-scoring game for the opponent, 40-10 Brockway.
Oh!
40.
Derek doesn't agree.
I'll tell you what, people in Dittmanville don't like that.
A couple stats we should throw out on Brockway. Their quarterback, Braden Fox, 882 yards passing, if I saw that correctly, and they've got a receiver, Alex Carlson, 30 catches for 413 yards. That's 3 games. I mean, so I'm sure a lot of that was against College Sport, probably.
There have been a lot of room
Still.
so far, yeah.
Still. Here's a good matchup. Battle of the Unbeatens. Sharpsville 3-0 at Slippery Rock 3-0. Brendan, you'll be covering that game. I'm sure you're looking forward to this one. What are your thoughts on this game?
William Mocha might have finally found his match here. Sharpsville's quarterback, Colin Summers, 794 yards and 7 touchdowns in 3 games. We know Slippery Rock likes to air the ball out. Obviously, Sharpsville does too. This one should be a fun one. I see Slippery Rock just barely coming out on top, 38-35.
The footballs will be flying, as they say, Derek, during the Sharpsville Slippery Rock game. What are your thoughts on this game?
Not only are they averaging Sharpsville, that is 263 yards passing game, they're also averaging 156 yards rushing per game. You want to talk about balance. But this game's at Slippery Rock. I think Sharpsville will have a lot of big plays. They'll have some scoring plays, but I like Slippery Rock's defense to make the biggest plays of the game when it counts in crunch time. Slippery Rock 34-27.
Wow, I thought one of us would bite on Sharpsville on this pick, but no one is, because I'm also picking the Rockets in a close game. To me, this is their statement game. They won their first 3, and we know that they've been playing good football. They beat this team even at home. Slippery Rock, clearly for real. I think they prove it this week. Thrilling game, gonna be very, very similar to the I think North Catholic game down at the Highlands. I'm picking Slippery Rock 28-24. Then our last game, we touched upon them earlier, Summit Academy. They got their first win last week, snapped a 14-game losing streak, dating back a couple years. Rochester, 1-1 on the year. They only played 2 games so far. They go to Summit 1-2. Derek, we'll start with you. Do the Knights actually get the 500?
I'd love to pick Summit Academy, especially after all those weeks where, we were picking against them. They jump up last week. They upset Springdale. I just think that one player stands out for me in this game. Rochester has a running back named Antonio Laurie. Really good running back, rushed for 140 some yards last week. That's the difference for me. I mean, you have a player in a game against a defense that is obviously inexperienced because Summit's starting from scratch every year. I think Antonio Laurie has a big game, and it leads Rochester to a 23-6 win.
Ben, what do you think? Rochester and Summit. Can Summit get the 500?
I've picked against Summit, as we all have the last 3 weeks. I'm going to pick against them again here. Rochester will be a better opponent than Springdale was able to provide last week. It'll be a 21-8 game.
Yeah, Rochester just blew away New Brighton last week, 60-12. That to me, that's a bad sign for Summit. If they scored 60 on New Brighton, they'll get some points on a pretty stubborn Summit Academy defense, though. But I'm picking Rochester 26-6. And our final segment of this week's show is the "And How About" segment, where we talk about something other than high school football. And this week, I pose a question to you two guys. Local high school coaches, this could be in any sport, who have been on the job at their respective sport at the same school for a long time. Derek, when I pose that description to you, who comes to mind for you?
Well, there are coaches in our coverage area who have been at their respective school and with that sport for longer, but just because I do a lot of stuff with Seneca Valley, I have to go with Eric Semega.
Okay.
His first season as the varsity baseball coach down there was the year before I got here, which would have been 2001. And he's still there, so we're talking 21 seasons now. Won a state title in 2007. Won Whitfield titles in 2011, 12, and 14. Now, it's been a while since Seneca Valley has had the caliber of team that can compete for a Whitfield championship, but they are always competitive. I challenge anybody to look back and say, oh, there's a bad Seneca Valley baseball team.
Sure.
They're always competitive. And obviously, a lot of that is due to the caliber of player they have, but to me, it also has to play into the fact that they have a stabilizing, kids come into the program, they know maybe from an older relative or an older friend that played for Semega, they know what to expect, and to me that has to have something to do with the success they've had down there, and they've had a lot of it over the years.
Yeah, what also impresses me about his program is not only does the Seneca Valley baseball have they had kids drafted, and they've had more than their share. They send a ton of kids to college ball every year.
They do.
I mean, there might be smaller schools, sometimes it's bigger schools, but it's a pretty impressive track record there. Brendan, long-time coach at a particular sport, at a particular school. What do you think?
First, I want to say that kind of praise is, I think, the reason why people at Seneca Valley don't know my name, Derek. They just know yours instead. But I'm gonna go.
Well, they're constructing a statue for Derek.
So
To throw rocks at, yeah.
I have to go with the coach who kind of got his flowers this past season, even though he's had a very successful program for years on top of years now. Right up the road, Butler's track coach, Mike Seibert, he had a bevy of fantastic runners this past season. They accomplished a lot, but he's been there a while, and that program has been steady the entire time.
Well, there's a lot of candidates for this question, but I'm going to stay with Butler, and I'm going to cheat because I'm going to name two guys. Both at Butler, Rick Davanzati, cross country / track and field, distance running, very impressive career. Was a distance runner himself at Butler. We've written a couple stories on him recently in the Butler Eagle. Well deserved. I mean, the number of quality distance runners he has churned out in the last 10 years is very impressive. And also Scott Stoner in wrestling. Scott Stoner took over the Butler wrestling program during only the program's second season. He's built it up. He's been in the Whitfield team playoffs on numerous occasions. He's had kids. He's got a couple of Whitfield champions during his time there, and has just built a solid program. Has a female wrestler there now, Anna Malovich, and I know Derek, by the way, give you a plug. Derek will have a story coming up. They're starting a girls wrestling program at Sanka Valley. Is looking forward to seeing that, and I think Butler's going to follow suit there shortly after that. But those are my two, Rick Davanzati and Scott Stoner. Kudos to them.
Just the fact that she wasn't mentioned, we got to throw out Ash. I believe she's our longest tenured coach in the county. Is Diane Geis down at North Lloyd.
Diane Geis at North.
She has been there a long time, and they've had obviously they're kind of going through a period now where they're trying to get back to the top. But state title,
absolutely.
titles, I mean, a ton of success down there, and
Dana Petruska at Mars. How about her too?
A little bit of a gap there. She left and then came back. But
still, like I said, there's so many of them. That's
Rob Carmody.
There's so many of them. That's why I want to bring this up. And not to mention the man who just ended his career at Mars, Scott Manor in football. We're pretty impressive tenure there also.
Molly Robin won her 500th game with North Catholic.
Well, I know, like I said,
in the playoffs.
We can go on and on with that subject. That's the reason I want to put that in. That concludes our podcast. Make sure you can check us out. A new episode every week starting at 7 a.m. Thursday. You can catch it on Spotify. We also want to encourage you, if you don't subscribe to the Butler Eagle now, you might want to do so. We are one of few newspapers in the state of Pennsylvania, if not this region, that still prints every day. We're online every day. In terms of high school football coverage, 6 games covered every Friday night. We take pictures of 4. We run a high school football photo page every Monday section that's attracted a lot of interest also. So check out the Butler Eagle daily. Check us out online and view the show, and we will see you all next week.